there's this metaphor from the righteous mind of the rider and the elephant, where our conscious mind is just a little rider on top of the elephant, and our intuitions, our emotions are the elephant. And they are most of our cognition. So whichever way they're going to go, that's just how it's going to be. And the rider rationalizes whatever that is.
Alrighty, we are now recording. So Reid, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks.
So welcome to Bearing the How podcast. Today I have Reid Nicewonder on. What a badass name. I just have to point that out. So Reid has a channel on YouTube called Cordial Curiosity, and it's a fucking badass channel. Like, I really want to say I watched a ton of your videos today. I'm very impressed, and it's honestly like I just from all the videos I watched, you inspire me to like want to be a better interviewer myself. The questions you're asking, how you were getting people to think the way they were thinking, really awesome stuff. Everyone check it out. Go subscribe to his channel. And I'll give a little context, but I want you to go into it more. But his I don't want to like say what your channel is about, but what it seemed like to me is it's about critical thinking, street epistemology, which for sure I would love for you to go into that. Mm-hmm. And he basically goes to places in Los Angeles, sets up this badass little setup with these two mics, and he asks people questions about belief systems, strangers, like people that just walk up to the desk, I guess, mm-hmm. and just asks them really insightful questions, trying to get them to really think. And I think maybe the way that I want to start is just asking, I guess, well, maybe to start with what is street epistemology exactly? Maybe that's a good place to start.
Sure thing. So epistemology is the study of knowledge.
Yeah.
Street epistemology is a conversational method. It's a way of having conversations with people to talk about what's really true, and it helps people reflect on the reliability of the methods they use to arrive at their deeply held beliefs.
Gotcha. Yeah, mm-hmm. We need that more in our society today, right? Mm-hmm. People need to think about why they believe what they believe, you know?
Yeah.
And then why did you start your channel? What's the story from the seed that was planted in your mind mm-hmm. to now having your channel and having your audience that you have and the people you've interviewed? What's like the journey that you've had? Because I know you did a presentation where you talked about it, and it's a brave step that you took, that initial step to do it. It's not easy. A lot of people do not and will never do that kind of thing. Yeah. So what's your journey?
It was hard. So I really value skepticism and critical thinking. I'd love to spread these values into the culture. And I first learned about these values through YouTube myself. Street epistemology originally comes from the New Atheist movement. It comes from the book A Manual for Creating Atheists.
Gotcha. Put that in the show notes for sure.
So I learned about skepticism and critical thinking in that community. And then I wanted to help, spread these values. And I found, this way of having conversations, a great way to do that. Yeah. And I wanted to help contribute in some way.
Gotcha. So before your YouTube channel, what was like the first thing that you did to practice these values?
Mm-hmm. I first went into the Facebook book group for Street Epistemology, the study group.
Gotcha.
Found a lot of great people there. And then around that time, there's a new video chat site called Blab at the time that was launched. So anybody could launch a Blab, just a video chat, and then 3 other people could come on video. So 4 people on video at one time, plus a public chat to the side. It was a great way to have conversations with people online. So a lot of us from the Street Epistemology community had conversations on that.
Gotcha.
But it shut down like a year and a half after it was launched, and I found myself needing a new way to talk with people.
Yeah, you must have been really like getting a lot out of that,
Yeah, it was really great. But once it was gone, I needed a new way, so I just went out in public and.
How did you think of How did you think of like what you're doing with setting up a desk and having strangers come on? It's such a cool format, mm-hmm. and how did you? What got you to do it? Because setting up in front of strangers and just having people come on, asking them questions, it's not easy doing that at all.
Well, a crucial part of SE is just really having human conversations, and there's just no good way to do it online video chat is okay, but you had to see the people's eyes. You needed to see some type of human connection. And the best way to do that is just in person. So I live here in Hollywood and I go on hikes up to the Griffith Observatory a lot. Cool. So we walking through these parks and there's just a great trail there. So I figured it'd be a great way to have conversations with people just by having a table there and just have people come up to me and have conversations that way. I got the idea from Anthony Magnabosco, who has another Street Epistemology YouTube channel. Gotcha. He has conversations with people at the time at a public college campus.
There's a ton of those videos. Let me ask you, would you consider Street Epistemology, the YouTube channels of people doing the pranks where they go up to people and strangers, is that at all in the same ballpark of what you would lump it into the? No, not at all. Street Epistemology is very non-confrontational. Gotcha. It's supposed to be very, very nice and friendly.
And it's actually trying to ask questions that get people to question their own faith in the belief they have. I guess is that how you would define it differently? Because there's a lot of channels of people that go up to strangers, but a lot of it is political, and they're shoving a mic in someone's face.
Yeah, the original goal from the book, A Manual for Creating Atheists, was getting people away from a certain usage of faith, using faith as a method for coming to beliefs, the type of belief without evidence usage, which we ran across a lot in our conversations from SE. But not everyone uses faith, and not everyone is holding religious views or anything like that. So we broadened it out over the years to really any belief. It's really a great conversation to have with anybody about anything.
Yeah. So let me ask you this just not, since we kind of hit on it, I want to get your opinion. Faith, what do you think? Do you think faith is something do you think someone having faith in something is not a good approach to believing what you believe?
Depends on how you define faith. A lot of people define faith as hope or trust. Those are fine. You can have hope in stuff or trust in a certain belief. Trust based on evidence. That's fine. That's good. But having faith in the way SE is trying to get away from is the belief without evidence, the not having any reason for believing what you believe is just another way Peter Boghossian defines it as pretending to know something you don't know.
I think that's a good way to put it. Okay, and then what about this? So this book, it's called, what is the book called again? I definitely got to read this book.
A Manual for Creating Atheists.
A Manual for Creating Atheists. Okay, and you were saying that it was like a bait and switch.
It really should be called A Manual for Creating Critical Thinkers.
Gotcha. So what was I guess I want to ask you, if you had to sum up that book and say what's good about, and I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate, why is it valuable to want to create more critical thinkers and have people question the beliefs that they have? I believe it is very valuable, but what is your opinion on why that is such a valuable thing? Because that isn't how a lot of people are.
There's various reasons, but I think the main one for me is that we do not live alone on an island, and we live in a democracy. We live with other people, and our beliefs have consequences. Our beliefs inform our actions, and our actions have consequences. And we need to have wise. We need to make wise choices, and in order to make wise choices, we need to know what reality is, what the truth is. So we need to value truth first, and then, based on the truth, meet our goals that way.
Yeah, I have someone on. You've met Hunter, right? I've had him on a couple times. He's awesome. I think I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but to me, I always think of him. He's definitely a skeptic. He always asks me questions that made me say, "Fuck, Hunter, come on, man, just let me think what I'm thinking." But how would you, just to kind of delve into this subject, how do you define skepticism, or what is the skeptic movement?
Yeah, I guess skepticism is a tool set for inquiry, and maybe a type of attitude to hold in yourself. It's being open to being wrong. That attitude is at the core. It's just no one has the final say about anything, and no one has any special authority about any belief. We should be skeptical about any claim. So anyone with a sincere belief or a sincere inquiry should be open to be taken seriously, to be considered at least. So skepticism also as a tool set. We want to be open to ideas being testable. We want to be able to get rid of false beliefs. So if we have any false beliefs that we have, we want to be able to discard them. The goal is to have as many true beliefs as possible and as few false beliefs.
So let me ask you this question. This is something that I've gotten into a few times. How do you know what's true? Like, how do you define truth?
Yeah, that's a big question.
It's a big question, but
that's epistemology itself.
Yeah.
I think the standard way is thinking about correspondence theory, like the map in the territory. There's the territory, there's the reality, and we try to map the territory. We try to create our knowledge, our human knowledge, to map this territory so we can have, if we want to get somewhere, we need to have accurate maps. So truth is, in the deepest sense, that pretty much.
Yeah. So would you say that, I just did a podcast a couple episodes ago. That's why this is on my mind. It kind of fits in perfectly with what we're talking about. But would you say that, or how do you know when you are understanding reality, like your reality that you're living? That's something that Chris and I and Hunter, we've gotten into a few times with, like, how the fuck do you know what reality is, or if you're being honest with yourself? Because I think I'm with you, and I think it is very important to be skeptical and question your beliefs and try to be more truthful and try to understand. But how do you know, because we have emotions, we have feelings that just completely can consume us really easily. How do you mitigate that? How do you know when you are seeing reality for what it really is? Or how would you, just in your personal opinion,
I don't think we can access reality perfectly. We are fallible. We have biases. We've evolved to have a lot of biases in us as humans. So I don't think we can have perfect knowledge. We can't have absolute truth. All we can have are provisional truths, small t truth. So a general way is empiricism. Having your beliefs be falsifiable, being able to test it. So if you have a belief, could you observe anything that would cause you to lower your confidence about that belief? Yeah. Is there a set of observations that you could encounter that would cause you to revise your confidence?
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, because this makes me think of this. I was watching a bunch of your videos today. A lot by the end of the videos, a lot of them, you could tell the person on the other side of the mic was like, shit, you really got me thinking, and I'm curious, do you have a goal when you're going into these, or an agenda with, is it, are you trying to just get people to think more about their belief, or are you trying to maybe make people, not hold so strongly to their belief? You know what I mean? What is kind of your goal when you're doing these interviews?
Yeah, I guess for the street epistemologists, they have a variety of goals. Some people do have goals of creating atheists, just, making people doubt their faith and making them no longer believe that way. But street epistemology at its core is a persuasion technique. We're trying to persuade people to reflect on how they came to their beliefs.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if people seem to go into the system 2 thinking mode, pausing, reflecting, maybe sometimes looking up at the ceiling like there's a spider on the ceiling, that's the type of moment we want to see in people.
Gotcha.
That is a goal for me, getting people in that system 2 slow thinking mode.
Yeah.
Just also maybe ultimately, preferably, valuing skepticism and critical thinking.
Yeah. And do you have one particular interview that you did that you remember that was this one was a good one? I really feel like I got through to this person, or it really affected me, There was one that I remember with Tia, I think was her name.
Tia's a good one.
That one was a good one by the end of it.
There's also one with a gentleman named Dominique. He talked about his belief in a God and Christianity. And that was just a really good one.
Yeah. Everyone go watch these, I'm telling you. So I want to ask, like, for me, this podcast has been amazing with keeping me motivated, and it really fulfills. And you said something a second ago that I definitely want to touch on. But it definitely fulfills me and makes me feel like there's this connection, like this real connection, which you were saying earlier. You think it's important, like the in-person actual connection. And I always want to like ask people, why do you think that is? What is it about this type of thing? We're here, we're looking at each other in the eye, and it feels so much different than like online, you know? What do you think that is all about? And do you think that that is a very important thing, that people need to be having this type of connection more?
Yeah, I don't think people can change their values through pure text. They need to experience something. They need to have some type of human connection or going through a different experience, a big feeling differently.
Yeah.
And a good way to do that is in person. We did not evolve to be on social media. This is definitely a new environment, a new way of interacting with people. We evolved talking with people, looking at each other. Like, so much of communication is nonverbal. So
that's true.
It's a big part of it.
And do you think, since we're on this subject, like I was telling you, my mind just fucking goes all over the place. But what are your thoughts on social media and like social media addiction? It's something I talk about a lot on this podcast. Like, what are your thoughts on social media addiction, the depression? Do you think there's a correlation with the insane amounts of people just on social media not having enough human connection? I think it's important because you're going out and talking to strangers and like having a real connection, you know?
It's a huge concern for me. I think I am addicted to social media myself. It's a big problem, but it's also a double-edged sword. We can meet people so much easier now. We can follow their conversations. We can learn so much more. It's a tough situation.
Yeah. I mean, so that's interesting. If you don't mind me asking you more about like social media addiction, what is that like for you right now? What is that all about? I was just watching Casey Neistat. He was talking about the same thing. Do you know Casey Neistat?
I know that, yeah.
Yeah. And he was talking about the same thing, you know, social media addiction, checking it all the time. And I've talked about it before, that there definitely seems like there is an issue with, since social media became so prominent in all of our lives, it's like connecting people, but it also is disconnecting people. Like it's like you can substitute real connection with social media, but the social media doesn't seem like it's fulfilling, really. You know, it's like in the long term, it just doesn't seem like it can actually provide you with it. And I'm just curious, like, what is your perspective on that? It's something I'd like to get into because, you know, it seems like an issue.
Yeah. I think it does provide a lot of meaning for people, but not in the way we kind of generally think about it. Like, we have certain moral communities. We have certain values that we share with people, and they seem to coalesce online, and they have little echo chambers for themselves.
Yeah.
But they don't stay in their echo chambers. They have to go out and defend their values against out-group members. So it's just sharing of outrage against these different moral communities, trying to make sure the out-group is seen as bad and evil, and the in-group is seen as virtuous and good. And that just sustains artificially some meaning in people's lives.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing a lot of online.
Yeah. Like it's artificially making you feel like and it is. I mean, like it does make you feel like you're a part of a community, but like at the end of the day, if your Wi-Fi goes down or something, you can't connect to the internet, it's like immediately that community is gone. And this is something like, do you ever listen to Graham Hancock? Do you know who Graham Hancock is?
I've heard the name.
He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast a few times, and he talks about like ancient civilizations. He kind of gets conspiratorial a little bit, but he's really interesting. Like he's a really awesome guy. But him and Joe Rogan talked about how all of our information today is on, like, it's all digital, which is awesome. You know, like all of our, like so much of our information and the way that everything functions is digital, and it's a grid, it's all electronic. And what if like one little thing happens, or there's a solar flare and all of it fucking goes to shit and it's all gone, you know, like all of our digital information. And you just made me think of this because of the social media thing. Do you ever worry about, I mean, I guess this is just kind of going way out there, but do you ever worry about how dependent we are as a society on technology, talking about social media and everything? My mind was just opened up to this recently. It's like, it's fresh on my mind how, like, I don't even fucking know how to get around LA without a GPS. You know what I mean? Like if I was in my car and my phone died, my GPS went off and I was going somewhere that I've never been, what the fuck would I do? I wouldn't be able to get there, you know? And it just ties into like social media, tech. And it's almost like we are so dependent on technology, and technology is fucking awesome. Artificial intelligence, of course, love talking about that. Love to talk to you about it. But it just made me worry about it. Like after listening to this podcast, I was like, holy shit. Like what if there is a solar flare and it all goes down? Like all of our information is digital. You have some books, but like, what would we do?
Yeah,
it's a big question.
That is a big issue. I don't know too much about it. A solar flare, are you saying like an EMP?
I guess.
It would somehow corrupt like the hard drives and the various servers.
Right, yeah.
Like that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem.
But I think there is backups and a solar,
you think?
I assume so.
I don't know.
And there's also renewable energy powering a lot of servers, a lot of social media servers. All the Silicon Valley companies are very green, or at least they try to be.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if a solar flare hits one side of the Earth, the other side of the Earth is protected in some way, and we try to distribute.
God, that's such an optimistic.
So hopefully, and yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like I just was listening to this podcast earlier today and it's on my mind. But do you mind me asking you about atheism?
No.
Do you consider yourself an atheist?
I don't take it on as an identity, but I would consider myself someone who does not believe in a God.
And why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is?
Like, why don't you believe in a God? Or let me ask you this question to get like really philosophical. I don't know how to ask it right now, but what you don't believe in a God, and are you like a scientific minded in terms of the way that reality is structured? You know, you just keep it scientific. Like, have you heard of simulation theory? I'm sure you've heard of it. What do you think about that?
Of simulation theory?
Of simulation theory.
It's a worthy hypothesis, but I have no need of that hypothesis.
Like, I like to ask this: why atheism? Why atheism and not believe in God? You know, I mean, because it seems like it's still a belief system to be atheist. I'm maybe completely wrong. Maybe it's the lack of a belief system, but
it can be its own moral community if you tack on things other than atheism into it and try to be a good atheism by proxy.
Gotcha.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
So a lot of the atheist community tries to tack on scientific skepticism onto atheism, secularism, sometimes social justice, sometimes other various things, and it's just an amalgam of all this. And so in order to be a good atheist, you need to be an activist for these things. But when you do that, you fall into the trappings of just religion in general. You have an us and a them, and it becomes star-bellied sneeches type of situation.
I'm glad you're saying that. It's like it's cool that you consider yourself atheist, but you're pointing out the bullshit that can come with it. You know,
I want to keep my identity small, and atheism is not like the lack of belief is a scant foundation for a community or identity. And atheism has no philosophical content. It's not anything to believe in. So yeah, I believe in science and skepticism. Those are positive things I believe in, and also liberalism and liberal science. We can get into that as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But atheism doesn't really matter anything to me.
Gotcha. So, that's interesting. What do you mean by you like to keep your identity small?
Since we are evolved hypersocial apes,
That's kind of it.
so since we are evolved hypersocial apes, we get very sensitive about our core beliefs, our core identities. So in order to not get triggered about a lot of stuff, it's good to not take on things as your identity. So you can be open to being wrong about more things.
Everyone listen carefully.
So keep your identity small if you want to seek truth, so you don't get in the way of seeking truth.
God, you just said something. I mean, you just said something that's very interesting. That the way that you put it, how we're just hyper social apes, and we hold dear to beliefs. And from your perspective, especially with the amount of people that you've interviewed, how many of the interviews have you done now?
Almost 1,000, probably.
God, that is so awesome, dude. But why do you think, I mean, this is a very like broad question, but what do you think it is why we hold dear to belief systems? Why is it that people get so, they hold so dear, get so angry, so triggered, like you're saying? And it seems like a problem today, especially.
They were adaptive in our evolutionary past. There's this idea from the righteous mind, group selection. There's the idea of natural selection, just genetic selection. We got up to Homo sapiens, but then after that, we invented culture, and culture was another environmental factor for humans. And humans could be selected against our cultures, our various tribes. So our cultures are an adaptive thing for humans.
What do you mean we like? Well, I get what you're saying. Like we invented culture, but what do you mean by like we invented culture?
Originally, it came from our capacity for language and for recording knowledge over a single generation.
Gotcha.
So we didn't have to teach our lineage, our grandparents. Like that's as much as we had access to their knowledge.
Gotcha.
At teaching us, we could get knowledge from past generations like a lot longer. So we could accumulate a lot more knowledge, and that gave us more adaptive fitness over time. And since humans went off in different directions over the planet, we were isolated, and we got different cultures based on different environments. And
And you think that that's the tribal nature in us is still, because the way that I kind of think about it is what makes sense to me is like it's all of this stuff. Jordan Peterson talks about IDW stuff, and definitely get into that stuff. It all just seems like tribal to me. Like you're saying too, like enemy, you're the enemy, I'm good. It's like it's a very tribal thing, and it seems like it's just very prominent now. And I always like to get people's perspective, but do you think that there is a correlation between internet, the connectivity, and this new level of instant, like making someone the villain? Do you think that there's a correlation between that?
I think there is for sure. Just humans need more communities. They need that for their psychological needs to meet them. And also part of that is just also having a common enemy that helps bind groups together. It makes it more a cohesive whole, just having a common enemy.
Have you experienced that with with interviews that you've done? Have you had anyone that's been like triggered really easily by stuff you're asking them?
Not in a big way, no.
God, you're lucky, especially in LA. I would think that you would get some people. You mentioned it a second ago, and I don't want to forget about it. What were you saying? Scientific liberalism? What was it that you're saying?
Liberal science.
Liberal, like what is that all about? I haven't heard that term before.
This is a concept from the book Kindly Inquisitors, The New Attacks on Free Thought.
Gotcha. I'll put that in the show notes.
By Jonathan Rauch. I found another quote about it. So here's from the book Kindly Inquisitors. First, there are not two great liberal social and political systems, but three. One is democracy, political liberalism, by which we decide who is entitled to use force. Another is capitalism, economic liberalism, by which we decide how to allocate resources. The third is liberal science, by which we decide who is right.
Wow.
That's what liberal science is. It basically has two rules. No one gets final say, and no one gets personal authority. So any knowledge is always open to criticism and no one gets any final say. So this keeps the just critical scrutiny, public criticism machine going, and that produces knowledge. Just people talking to each other, criticizing each other's ideas. Knowledge emerges from that process, just like
this is what we're doing.
yeah, just like organisms emerge from natural selection.
Yeah. Well, how do you determine what's right? That's the question. Like, even with that, how do you determine what's right? You know, it always seems like that's such an impossible thing to do. Like, is there such a thing as right? You know, I know that seems like a very postmodern question, but
yeah, there's a few different principles for. Let me find that quote again. So you've heard of might is right.
Yeah.
We don't want that rule. We don't want that principle. So there are other options for us for deciding who is right. There's the fundamentalist principle. Those who know the truth should decide who is right. So in the past,
who knows the truth?
In the past, this has been like a god or philosopher kings, that type of thing.
Gotcha.
Then there's the simple egalitarian principle, which is all sincere per person's beliefs have equal claims to respect. So there's just everyone is right. Everyone has their own truth. Then there's the radical egalitarian principle, like the simple egalitarian principle, but the beliefs of the persons in historically oppressed classes or groups get special consideration.
What do you think about these? What are your thoughts on? Because all of those, I think, have flaws, you know?
There's definitely flaws with those three for sure. It would keep going. Then there's the humanitarian principle, any of the above, but with the condition that the first priority be to cause no harm, no hurt. But I'm a fan of the liberal principle, which is the checking of each by each through public criticism is the only legitimate way to decide who is right.
Yeah. Well, that seems like what the whole IDW movement is about. You know, just kind of.
Yeah, and the key word there is public criticism. All knowledge is public. All knowledge is social. And criticism could include empiricism. Doesn't have to be, but that's a great way to do it. You know, going off evidence, testing reality. But there's other ways. But that's one of the more popular ways.
I mean, yeah, that definitely seems like. I mean, with the other three, that one seems like the most reasonable way. I like to dig into, since we're kind of touching on social media, now we're hitting on this stuff. What are your thoughts on Facebook, Instagram, how big it is right now? Like I've talked with Ryan, who's been on the podcast a couple times, and he planted the seed in my mind of really thinking about like the algorithms being used that are how they're getting us to look at the certain things that we're looking at negatively. Like it's whatever. This is the way that I understand it. Like the algorithms, they're based off of what we're doing. And a lot of the time what we're doing is clicking on shit that's negative and clicking on stuff that's like visceral. And it's causing more of that to pop up. And I mean, it's just crazy how big Facebook and Instagram is, how everyone has one, and like getting conspiratorial, like talking about Graham and Joe Rogan. It seems like there's really, like it really seems like it could be changing like people's minds, the way that we are thinking, the way that we're seeing reality. Like, and I'm wondering, what do you think with Facebook, with Instagram? What do you think that they should be regulated by government? Do you think that it should be, because they are a company, right? They're their own private company. Should they not be regulated? Should they be regulated? I always like to get people's opinions on this topic because it's such a complex issue, and talking about all this stuff.
It's hard to say. This is a big question.
Sorry, I do this.
It's just, who do you want to be your censor?
Well, that's a good way to put it too. Who do you want to be your censor?
And I don't trust Silicon Valley trust and safety teams for a variety of reasons. But if this is how we're conducting public criticism, mostly on these platforms of social media, we need to make sure free speech is protected.
I'm glad you're saying that.
This is the method through which not only knowledge is produced, but moral knowledge as well. Progress is made through this process.
Yeah.
And even if someone is very much wrong, like they may have some partial part of the truth in their beliefs. So we need to be open, keep everyone open to being criticized and being able to say what they need to say.
Yeah. So you are all for freedom of speech, it sounds like, for sure. So what do you think about people getting banned from Twitter and stuff? Like Alex Jones getting banned. Do you think that was bullshit?
It's terrible.
You think so? God, I'm glad you're saying that. Like, yeah, it's good. It's definitely, I feel the same way. That leads me to IDW stuff. So you and we like very briefly met at an IDW meetup, and I didn't know about your channel or anything at that time, but what was your draw to the IDW, and what do you see the IDW as? You know, I don't take it too serious or anything. I think it's a good way to kind of like lump these people together, you know?
Yeah. Like maybe a good way to define it is what it's not. It's not, it's about conversation. It's about figuring out, it's a way of sense making, as, what is it? Eric Weinstein says. But it's about not caring about people's character, just keeping that off the table and just getting straight to the ideas, not worrying about being labeled a bigot for putting forward something.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it. And like, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely an awesome movement. I actually I don't remember the name of the person, but I watched one of your videos, and it was a woman, and she was talking about socialism, and she was like all for socialism, and she was just saying why she thinks capitalism is horrible and like all for socialism. But I'm just curious, what is your perspective just generally on capitalism, socialism, or whatever, you know, the two different sides of the coin? And then have you had any, like over the course of how long you've been doing these interviews, even just not about capitalism, socialism, but have there been any, like, have you had any, like your mind changed prominently from these interviews? Anything specifically that you've done so many of these and there's been like a common thread that people in all of them or whatever say that's kind of got you to think like, you know what, maybe I need to change my mind a little bit on this?
So there's a lot there. I guess starting with the socialism and capitalism, I think that it comes down to, evolution is smarter than any individual human or set of humans. And capitalism is a type of evolutionary system. It lets the market allocate resources itself, like the invisible hand. This is not something created by committee. So it lets the changes in demand, the price, meet that demand.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Like it kind of evens it out based on what the market is doing, I guess, Yeah,
the price is the intersection of supply and demand.
Yeah. So why the fuck do so many people think of capitalism as it's some evil ruling class that's ruling this society? Like that, it seems like people have a huge misconception. I get it. There's a bunch of shit wrong with capitalism. But
I mean, there's different stories people tell themselves about capitalism and socialism. There's a big overarching story about oppression versus the oppressed, with socialism coming from Marxism. That's just how they view the world. That's their lens. So it's the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
So anyone in that class is necessarily oppressing those at the bottom. But this does not take into account how these hierarchies are created. All hierarchies are not purely dominant hierarchies. There can be this thing called prestige hierarchies. So we can have a positive sum game where people are working together, and through prestige, wealth is created, like a positive sum game. This is how we've lifted people out of poverty over time.
Pareto distribution too. Everyone look into that.
So I'm not an expert on any of this, but this is just the basics that I have. So please fact check me.
Yeah, I'm not at all an expert either. But I do like, I think I agree with a lot of what Jordan Peterson says about capitalism stuff, but I need, I need to like dig in myself. Like I haven't read a ton of stuff on socialism, honestly, like just individually outside of, Jordan Peterson or whoever might be talking about it. But I do like, about Pareto distribution, I'm sure, with Jordan Peterson talking about all the time. And because people like to say that. People like to say about capitalism, this whole, and I'm not saying that capitalism is the best and it's good. There's a lot of stuff that's wrong. There's a lot of shit wrong in all societies. We're human. Like shit's not perfect. But people say like the 1% has all the money, and they say it as if it's like they are controlling in a manipulative and secretive way. But if you think about it, Pareto distribution, that kind of thing, that's the way that it ends up happening, that the wealth ends up accumulating to a certain percentage of people because, I guess there's a big gap. Like the people that work their asses off and it's like the snowball effect, right? You end up getting some money, you end up making some connection, you get more money, and then it just builds and builds and builds. Yeah. And it seems like that's the reason why, there's 1% of the whatever, I don't know the exact numbers, but there's such a small percent of people that have all the wealth. And
I've heard from Thomas Sowell that this class of people, this 1%, is not 1% from the same family over generations. Yeah. It churns. It seems like by the third generation, a family loses all of its money. So
that's right. I think I've heard Jordan Peterson say that. Actually.
So this churns through different families, different people, but there always will be this, 1% type of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So just like this makes me want to ask you. I'm just curious. We haven't talked about it, but if you don't mind, where do you stand if you had to say on the political spectrum yourself?
Probably center left. I think I'm all three, a liberal, a progressive, and a conservative, depending on the subject.
That's what I would say, like just watching your videos. I wouldn't have been able to say just from watching your YouTube channel, because I'm serious. Like I really respect that about you, that you don't like push any of your ideas. You literally just ask people good questions, which is like, I was like I was saying before, if I say something, ask me, like try to push me on anything that I might say. But I'm doing the same thing. Like I'm trying my best to like just ask the good questions,
Cool.
I think if you want to get into more, let me ask you this. This is going to be a fucking like just very general question, but
all right.
I love Eric Weinstein. I actually he is such a fucking awesome guy. And like, what are your thoughts on Eric Weinstein? Because I feel like he needs, for some reason, I just feel like he needs to be, like he needs a bigger platform or something. I feel like he should be talking about the shit he talks about to more people. Like I really like it. You mentioned him a second ago and I just didn't want to forget, but what are your thoughts on Eric Weinstein?
I'm also a big fan of Eric Weinstein. Weinstein?
Yeah.
Weinstein?
I think it's Weinstein. I think he said he wanted to keep it Weinstein to separate himself from fucking whoever, the Hollywood guy.
But just the lines of reasoning he uses are just very novel to me. It's very fascinating what he says. His idea about we're in a sense-making crisis. I think that's true. We're in that type of crisis now.
Yeah.
So this is part of street epistemology, is trying to help people think more critically about their beliefs.
Yeah. Everyone needs to go subscribe to his channel. I'm going to say it again. Sorry for plugging so much, but I just want to I'm with you. I think this thing and I'm trying to do the same thing. Like, I really think it's important. And you're doing such a good job with your, going up to strangers and stuff. You know?
And just to be clear, street epistemology does not mean you have to go out in public with cameras to talk with people. It's a way of having conversations with anybody at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let everyone read that book. I got to read it myself. Eric Weinstein said something, and I'm going to butcher this. I'm not going to quote directly because I don't fucking remember, but he said this, I think about this a lot. Jordan Peterson talks, in depth, and he talks a lot about like the individual, how important it is, your individual responsibility, right? Like you are responsible for your life. You're in control. You need to get your shit together, sort yourself out, clean your room. And of course, yeah, like I'm all for that. He was a big inspiration for me to just even starting this podcast, huge motivator. But Eric Weinstein said something on, he did a podcast with Lex Friedman. You know Lex Friedman? He's the MIT AI guy. But he did a podcast with him, and it was like toward the end of the podcast. I can't remember what he said exactly, but he was talking about like, like individual responsibility. It's true, but he was like, but you shouldn't fucking feel bad if you're having a hard time and struggling in the economy right now. He was like, you shouldn't feel bad because there are problems with the economy that you can't do anything about right now. And I'm just curious, talking about capitalism, socialism, what are your thoughts on individual responsibility generally? Are you with Jordan Peterson in complete agreement with it's all the individual? You need to just be responsible, clean your room, sort yourself out. Or do you think that it is okay for people to try to like ask questions and poke holes in the economy and try to like make changes,
That's a big question.
Big question. I do this. I need to work on it. I'm sorry.
I think in general, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. Take on as much responsibility as you can. I think that's great. That's what I try to do. It's hard. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, I know. I'm just curious. Like with Eric Weinstein said that, and I just remember that I was like, it just made, he was like, he tapped into the whole like internet dad thing. I want to ask you, you said you live in Hollywood, and you're not from LA, right?
Not originally.
How did you get to LA?
I got to LA by way of Orlando, originally from Bristol, Virginia, on the Tennessee border.
So you're from what was did you go to school out here, or did you just move out here?
I went to film school in Orlando at UCF.
Gotcha.
Moved out here, got here on 11/11/11.
Yeah, you're saying that means something.
If that means anything. With a roommate from college. Just
do you make short films and stuff still?
Yeah.
Cool. You have any on your channel?
I'm finishing up a feature film.
Oh, really?
It's got it in festivals now.
Damn, dude, that's
badass,
man.
A poster and a trailer for it.
Awesome. That's really awesome, dude. You're doing a ton of shit. I moved out. Yeah, I moved here from Texas just like 5 years ago. Hollywood, just, wanted to be an actor. Now, totally kind of, this is what I'm enjoying more than anything now, just doing this kind of thing.
Cool.
Do you, what's your vision for your YouTube channel, by the way? Like, what are your goals? It's growing. And I'm, like I was saying before, keep doing what you're fucking doing. Like, I think you'll blow up. So really, I think you have a good street epistemology channel, if that, just from what I've seen.
Yeah, my main goal is to model street epistemology, how to have these better conversations, more friendly conversations about how to have, talk about what's really true. So I'll just continue doing that, going out in public, getting some interviews. But I also want to try a new format where I'm trying to get people from these various moral communities. Have you heard of this white paper called Mimetic Tribes and the Culture War 2.0?
No.
It's from these two guys who kind of did an audit of all the major online communities, ranging from, far left progressive activists to, religious right, to street epistemologists, to new atheists,
Gotcha.
the sorters that he called them, the Jordan Peterson people, the IDW.
Gotcha.
Just like, I think they had a list of like 20 to 25 mimetic tribes, they called it.
Wow.
So I'd like to start having these tribes talk to each other. There's a concept called a mimetic mediator in that white paper. I'd like to try to do that a little bit more. Wow. So get people's reactions on different reasons for certain things from these different tribes, talk to them individually, and then just compile them all into a video series or something.
Wow.
Just so everyone can see what people are thinking in these various tribes.
That sounds really fucking cool. And you said that's a paper?
It's a white paper, yeah.
God, yeah, I definitely want to read that. Have you thought about doing like being a mediator for debates?
I haven't thought about that.
I could see you being a really fucking good like mediator for debates, keeping like that open mind, you know?
That'd be fun.
That would be cool. Have you done any debates yourself?
Not really. I've had a few conversations with some religious apologists online on their channels.
Gotcha.
But it's more of just a conversation.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely think that would be cool. It would be cool to have you and Hunter come on this podcast together.
That'd be fun.
That'd be really cool. I had someone on, a pastor, very conservative Christian pastor, and I just kind of want to get your, you know, maybe I'll play devil's advocate myself and play the role of a very fundamentalist Christian pastor, and I want to kind of get your like maybe like, I don't know how to do this, like an example of street epistemology, how you would approach it. As I am a fundamentalist Christian pastor, and I'll step into the role now. So I believe my goal is to glorify God. I think, you know, God is the overall number one. He's, you know, he created everything. The earth is 6,000 years old, and that is my belief system. Jesus Christ died for our sins. You know, how do you approach questions in that? Like, what's like the first question you'd ask for someone like that?
Sure. A good way to conceptualize a street epistemology conversation is in 3 parts. It's like what, why, and how.
Okay.
And most of the conversation, you want to be in the how mode.
Gotcha.
Like discovering how they came to their beliefs, their methods, their epistemology. So we first start with what. So you mentioned what. So
glorify God.
And then we want to make very clear what people are talking about and get definitions cleared up. So you mentioned, you believe in a God and he's your personal savior and stuff like that. Could I get a sense of your confidence about that? So you just go from
I'm a 10.
0 to 100.
I'm a 12.
At 12, like so super
I am
confident.
a 12, super confident.
So by this amount of confidence, you mean you could not be mistaken about it?
I'm not mistaken. It is what it is.
Yeah, open. Yeah, like there's no more evidence you need. You're set on your position.
I don't need. I mean, there isn't any evidence ever that I've seen now. You know, it doesn't mean maybe, but no, there's no evidence now. I'm a 12.
Okay. So what would you say is like the main reason why that gets you to such high confidence?
I would say that, this is funny. I would say that I'm confident because I have felt the presence of God, and because I've read the Bible, and the Bible points to why our Lord and Savior, he created the universe, and why Jesus Christ, and I'm just, this is so funny. It's fun.
Yeah,
this is like a good practice for me. Jesus Christ is a historical figure. He's the only, you know, in religions, he's the only figure that became history from the resurrection. All of these stories that were told about him are actual historical, it's evidence because it's people talking about history. No different than like Aristotle, right? It's history. So he was actually resurrected. He said he was the Son of God, and then he said he'd be resurrected, and then he was resurrected. And so that, based on that evidence, that is the case that I believe in God, and I believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, and he died for our sins. And I know that in my own life, living according to that belief system fulfills me and helps me live a better life.
All right. So please correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing you say is that you have like these 2 main ways of coming to this belief. You have a felt presence.
Yes.
That Jesus is real. You feel him in yourself. And then also there's the evidence portion. You get a lot from the Bible.
I think the Bible is actual historical evidence.
Historical evidence from the Bible, which includes Jesus being a historical figure along with his resurrection. So stuff like that.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. You got it.
And what would you say is more of a factor in your belief, the felt presence or the evidence?
I would say maybe the felt presence. The felt presence.
Okay. So Let's see.
By the way, I'm going to just throw this in there if anyone's like just kind of watching. We're playing a game right now to get a sense of street epistemology.
Yeah. So if another person came up to the table and joined our interview here, and they said they had a felt presence from another religion with another God, would that be a good way of coming to that belief?
Well, I would say that, like, I understand that, and I think that they would just be misinterpreting the God. I would say that, like I was saying, if someone came up to the table and they said they felt the presence from a different religion, I believe it. I just think that they're misinterpreting it because, like I was saying, Jesus Christ being resurrected is actual historical evidence, and no other religions have the historical evidence of someone who said that they were the Son of God, and then they said they'd be resurrected, and then they died and they were resurrected. So I believe that they feel it, but I would say that they're just misinterpreting it, that it's the Christian God that they're feeling.
Okay, so they have true feelings themselves, but they're just misinterpreting their feelings. It's not their God, it's your own Christian God.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my belief.
All right. And if someone is just seeing both of you, also saying you're misinterpreting your feelings about their God.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing both of you. Is there any way to tell which one is more accurate in their beliefs?
Well, I guess I would just go back to the historical evidence that's in the Bible, that the Bible has a lot of historical evidence. All of these tales that are told are accounts of actual history. And you can, because Jesus, like I was saying, Jesus Christ actually said that he was going to be resurrected, and he was. And so, he was the man that became myth, but it's actual history. So as far as I know, other religions don't have that historical truth that Christianity has.
So there's some claims in the Bible that seem to be historically accurate.
Yeah.
If we had some expert, someone that we both trust, that could explain to us both how these things could possibly be explained in a different way, how the claims in the Bible were not actually history, would that have any, if they could do that and could explain to us both to our satisfaction that it's not history, would that have any effect on your confidence?
Well, that is a hard one because it's hard to say, because I don't think that anyone would be able to do that. And so it'd have to happen for me to have the confidence. I guess hypothetically speaking, I would say that it probably would be the devil possessing this person.
It would be the devil possessing this person?
This is fun. I like this.
What I'm hearing you say is, even if someone who knows a lot more about this than both of us could give, sufficient reasons to us why that was possibly not historical, you feel that would be just a confirmation of your beliefs that the devil is affecting this person?
I mean, the devil does that. The devil plays tricks, and it says that in the Bible a lot, that the devil, Satan, will infest and try to manipulate the truth and people's beliefs. So that's what I would think, is that, it would make perfect sense that would actually just be Satan trying to manipulate the truth and make me think something differently. And so I would still feel God, and I would go with God.
Okay. So is there any way to test this belief? Is there anything you could learn or find out to change your confidence about it?
Testing as in testing my feeling that I'm having, or testing like the historical evidence?
Either one.
I think you could probably test the history. I'm sure that there's been tests and that people have gone into the Bible, and there's actually a lot of books. Just another quick little mention. We're role playing right now. But I had a pastor on who is a conservative Christian, and he provided a bunch of links of the historical case for the Bible. So just going off of that, I would say that I think there are a bunch of books, and I think there are scientists that have tested the history in the Bible and prove that it is accurate history. So that probably can be tested. As for my feeling, I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough about science to know that if you can somehow test my emotions or test like with a lie detector test, maybe. I'm not sure. I would do it though.
Okay.
If you set it up.
Okay. So what specifically could you find out that could change your confidence, either through history or feelings?
I don't know. I don't know that there's anything that could change my confidence because there is no answer. Science doesn't provide an answer as to how the universe was created,
So that's another factor, an explanation for how the universe came to be?
Yeah, I think God created the universe.
Okay.
And there's no way to test that, is there? I mean, I know the Big Bang Theory, but there's no way to test, like, what was before the Big Bang,
So you're saying, not sure how it came to be, therefore the Christian God?
Yeah.
Okay. If we had an alternate explanation that was sufficient to both of us, would that have any effect on your confidence?
You mean an alternate explanation for how the universe was created?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be open to hear about an alternate explanation for how the universe was created. I would be open to hearing about it, but even then, what was before that? Like if the universe was created and we learned how it was created, what was before that? And then what was before that? I mean, it seems like it can just keep going infinitely. And I would say it's the Christian God that goes all the way back. And it's the Christian God because, like I'm saying, there's historical evidence that Jesus Christ was resurrected, and that's a miracle. It's a miracle, that happened.
What is the best evidence for the resurrection?
Good question. I think this is where I'm not going to be able to play this role anymore. I have no idea.
Cool. And then we go through the reliability of
that's awesome.
Personal testimony.
See, that's what I'm saying about the way you ask the questions, Like it's just you're really asking the questions in a not like judgmental way, and it's like a true way of like kind of staying in line with the person, It's really awesome.
Cool.
I definitely need to read that book for sure.
Yeah, we try to base it on the Socratic method.
Wait, what is the Socratic method?
The Socratic method comes from Socrates,
Gotcha.
Greek philosopher way back when. The Socratic method has 5 parts. The first part is the hypothesis. Someone brings up an idea, the first part is wonder. We're wondering about something, so we're wondering about the truth of a God being real. And then we put forward a hypothesis, usually a reason for why we think it's true. And then we start with the eluncus, I think that's what it's called. This is the Q&A portion. So we're testing the hypothesis through that. With SE, there's different types of ways of questioning. There's defeasibility questions, the testability questions. And then there's the outsider test for faith type questions, which was, if someone else believed this type of thing, is there any way to tell?
Yeah.
So those are defeasibility questions. If there's no way to resolve those, then we go back to another hypothesis, and we just keep repeating that. And then we get to a portion where we either accept or revise the hypothesis. You either go back and question more. And then after that, we get to the accept and act accordingly.
Cool. I'm taking notes on this. I definitely want to look into this. When I kind of got into, like after a few podcasts and I realized that myself, I definitely want to ask good questions. And I was like, I wonder if there's like some philosophy on interviewing and asking questions. And this is like a really awesome.
Yeah, the SE guide, a PDF, goes into more detail about this as well.
Cool. I'll definitely look into it. So let me ask you this question about you just talking about faith and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What do you just this is a deep question. It's very broad again, but like, what are your thoughts on, because yourself being, like you were saying, as atheist, but you don't identify with it. It's not like a big thing for you. But why do you think people do have a need to have a belief system, to have like something that they can hold on to? Do you think it's like an evolutionary consequence or what?
Yeah, I think in the past we evolved these characteristics to need three main things: a sense of control in our life, a way to solve some way of attribution, making sense of the world, and then also a need for sociality, a community.
Gotcha.
These three things together, if we don't have them all three, we seem to suffer and lack a lot of meaning. So that's a big part of human nature.
And do you think that, your personal opinion, do you think that religion is a good thing for people fulfilling those three needs?
I think it has evolved to meet those needs specifically.
Yeah.
I think God as a concept is a set of ideas specifically evolved culturally to meet those psychological and social needs.
And do you think and do you think that we're like getting to a place in our evolution, in the advancement of technology, understanding the universe, that sometimes the way that I kind of think about it is like we're hitting this, it's like we're hitting a brick wall, because we're now advanced enough where we have enough understanding about the nature of reality that religion doesn't really make sense. Like it's not fulfilling anymore, because now we understand so much more that, yeah, it used to fulfill those three things, but now it's like, fuck, it's not anymore,
Yeah, since the Enlightenment, we've seemed to have, the respect of evidence.
Yeah.
We want to pursue truth through accumulating evidence. That seems to be a new way of making sense of the world, rather than through religion.
Yeah.
And through that process, it seems to have undermined our old religious institutions in some way.
Yeah. And it's like what Jordan Peterson says. And I like to bounce this off of just everyone and just get the thoughts, because I struggle with this myself, which is like religion, like you're saying, the Enlightenment has undermined religion, and it's kind of like knocked the foundation out from under us, like what Jordan Peterson says. But science doesn't provide enough meaning, I feel like, in my personal experience, like just speaking about myself, like, I struggle with that every now and then with like, I get into my ruts where I feel like I don't feel that sense of meaning enough, And so science answers so many questions and fundamental questions, but it's not answering like the ultimate question,
Yeah, there's the uncomfortable truth that we're all going to suffer and die.
Yeah.
And ultimately, on a cosmic scale, nothing matters.
Yeah.
In that sense. So
that's probably where the existential, crisis is that knowing that,
But we have to be able to accept that truth and move forward.
How do you do that?
Through the coin.
That's right. You showed me that coin.
Amor Fati.
Let me see that thing. So this is for anyone that might just be listening. There's this really badass coin. It's heavy too. What is this made of?
I'm not sure what it's made of, but it's from Ryan Holiday's company. He has a bunch of books on Stoicism, like The Obstacle is the Way. But this is from Nietzsche, I think, originally.
Yeah.
But originally from Stoic ideas. What is the quote on the back?
Yeah, so it says, not merely to bear what is necessary, but love it. God.
Mm-hmm. So pain is the universal constant.
Yeah.
We can't get away from pain or suffering. It's always going to be there. These narratives and stories that we tell ourselves about living forever, going to an afterlife, are just ways of trying to get away from this, uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
Even with science, creating a utopia where no one suffers. Sometimes that gets there, but this is also not going to happen.
What do you think about that idea, since you just kind of hit on it, like this idea of, that's the flaw that I see, which, Dostoevsky and Nietzsche probably, I probably like hits on it, but specifically Dostoevsky, utopia, like a utopia it isn't fucking doable, because humans are searching and need that, like, that, more.
All we can hope for is have better problems.
Yeah.
Everything, we're not going to have utopia. The perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yeah. And then one this just popped in my head too. Technology, right? It's advancing. Artificial intelligence, simulations. You say we're not going to live forever, but what about the reality that, well, wait a minute, things are going to advance to the point where we are going to be able to live forever. You know, what the hell does that mean when that happens? You know,
this might be the final religion, AI.
God, thinking about it like that is fucking mind blowing.
I think progress is inevitable. I don't know what's going to happen.
What are your thoughts? Like, just sorry to interrupt you, but just putting it, like, getting into that artificial intelligence.
I think it's highly plausible. I think almost inevitable.
You think we'll actually be able
if we don't destroy ourselves, virtually certain, because we're progressing. I think once we get to a certain point where it can improve itself, and we can't control it,
we're done.
Like we've already almost kind of hit that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen.
I think though, like here's like a little, like playing devil's advocate, however you want to put it. There's a part of me that thinks we'll never be able to create consciousness, that it isn't programmable, that that's like conscious. There's part of me, simulation theory, we kind of talked about it. There's part of me that thinks consciousness is the fundamental reality. That is existence. That's like the fundamental like reality is consciousness. It is the simulation or whatever, and that we'll never actually be able to program consciousness. Which the way that I think about it too is like, how long did it fucking take for us to get to this point with our own consciousness? Like just keeping it scientific, right? Like it's just in our brains. It's just the process that our brains use to interpret reality. How long did it fucking take? Millions of years, right? Of evolution. Millions of years to get to this point where we can interpret reality with our five senses the way we do it. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, we're not going to be able to fucking do that with technology now. Like we're not going to get to that point.
You've heard of Immanuel Kant.
Yeah.
There's the idea about consciousness is able to take a problem, a system of certain amount of complexity, and conceive and generate greater complexity using our own consciousness. So if we can understand consciousness ourselves in some way, then maybe we can generate greater complexity.
Do you think that? Do you think that we will be able to create consciousness, or however you want to put it?
Highly plausible. If we are virtually just wet robots, why can't we make our own robots?
God, it's crazy thinking about it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is in me that, like, I don't know if that's just like the human spiritual part of me that doesn't want to think like, we're going to create it, and then it's like we're going to be meaningless at that point. We're like, they're going to wipe us out. What's the point of humans? If consciousness gets to that point where artificial intelligence gets to that point where it just, like you were saying, can create itself and advance itself, what the fuck is the point of humans? And I'm with Joe Rogan. I'm sure you've heard of Joe Rogan talk about like his theory that we're just here, like literally humans are just here to create artificial intelligence, and then that's going to be a new life,
Maybe. We might just be a bridge to something greater than good and evil.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Yeah. It makes me, I always wonder, like, what is the role what is ethics and morals going to look like with artificial intelligence? Even now, even like automated cars and stuff. Like there's Lex Friedman, I can't remember who he was talking to. I think he was talking to Joe Rogan, but he was talking about, like, here's a question with automated cars, which is there's a problem of if your car, it gets to the point where it's just completely automated or autonomous, you don't have to steer it or anything, and it can do everything completely by itself. What if like a kid runs out into the street?
Yeah.
There's a problem there, because do you swerve, right? But if you swerve and you go into the other lane, what if you hit a car next to you? So that's like a moral question right there with AI? What does it do in that case? How does it make that decision to miss the kid or to swerve into another lane and hit another car? You know,
We have to train it. There was a Tesla Autonomy Investor Day a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and they talked about how they're training their AI, their Tesla neural network,
yeah,
and they're basically just, there's hundreds of thousands of cars out there in the world already.
crazy.
So they can just, if they have a question about a certain situation, which way should it go?
Yeah,
All the cars have cameras on them. They're recording constantly. So they can just, like in real life right now, is this situation occurring right now? Check reality. And then they could just, based on the cameras of the cars, if they're in that reality, what did that car do? So they can just have that data over, and like just make sure, what did people do in that situation?
Yeah.
And then they would just train the neural network.
and they
that
just
way.
go off of all of the data that it's like all of the different situations. But it still makes me wonder, how does it make that decision? Like, what are all the variables in play that make the car decide to swerve or not swerve? Because I mean, to me, it seems like the obvious answer, if it's like a little kid on a bike, you probably should try to get out of the way. But and I'm sure it's not that common that there's another car exactly in the other lane and that happen. I'm sure that hasn't happened much, or maybe never. I don't know, but it's kind of a moral question from the car's perspective. Of course, it isn't.
Yeah.
But like from our perspective, looking at it from high up, it's like, fuck.
I mean, I'm sure there's trolley problems happening every minute of every day.
Yeah.
So if Tesla can just train their neural networks on the real trolley problems happening,
Yeah.
we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. It seems like autonomous vehicles are like the best AI right now in terms of seeing reality and interpreting it, right? I mean, it seems like they have the most data. I mean, not really the internet as a whole, right? But it seems like autonomous cars are kind of doing exactly what we do as humans, like it's just taking in this data and then trying to interpret it the best way. The other thing too that I thought was so interesting is, as humans driving behind a car, there's also there's like a social aspect, right? When you can, if someone is on the sidewalk and you're at a stop sign or a stoplight, you can look at the person, make eye contact, and kind of like nod your head, or you can go, you're not going to go. Cars can't do that shit. It's such a weird thing to think about. Like, and if you think like, okay, 1,000 years into the future, it's going to be like Minority. Have you seen a Minority Report? It's going to be like, it'll be like that at some point, where everything is just like just completely autonomous and there's no like sidewalks maybe. But right now it's like, there are situations like that where, well, what if there's someone on the street, like a jogger, and they're waiting at a red light, and there's like that moment where, well, that person could go or you could go, and should you wait, should you not wait? I guess like what you're saying, that there's no really answer other than take in as much data as you possibly can, analyze it and see what happened, and just go from there. But it's funny because it is kind of proposing an ethical question,
Yeah, there's different autonomous car companies using different methods.
Yeah.
Some are trying to use this technology called LiDAR, which is basically just mapping the world around them with just, with a new version of, LiDAR is just mapping the world in terms of like just making a lot of different pixels around them.
Yeah.
But Tesla is using like virtually just imaging and training their neural network that way.
Yeah.
Like identifying objects in the real world, including, bikes on the back of cars.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And stuff like that. So if they have, if they recognize a person is standing there at a crosswalk, they'll just program their cars so there's just a buffer of, usually the person, or like there's a certain chance this person may jump out in front of the car.
Yeah.
So, we're not going to go because of that small chance.
It's like programming the morals into the car now. But it's not like, you don't think about it that way, but that's kind of what that is.
Mm-hmm. I think eventually people driving cars will be outlawed. Like, we're just monkeys in these 2-ton death machines
Yeah.
driving around. No, people in the future will just be flabbergasted
Right?
that ever happened.
Yeah. Like we'll get to a point where we look back and say, what the fuck were we doing driving these cars?
All it
It's
has to
crazy.
get to is just safer than humans.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is it there now
Almost.
with Tesla? Like, isn't it already? I don't know, but it seems like it, that it would be at this point.
Mhm.
When do you know when it's supposedly like when Elon Musk has predicted fully autonomous where you can get in your car and drive across
all the new
across
cars
state?
being produced have the full self-driving computer in it, available for people to buy
God.
and upgrade. All it takes is an over-the-air update. to
Yeah, that's
make the
crazy
software.
too about Tesla. That it's just like over the air updates like that. That's wild.
Mhm.
It's really crazy thinking about like what is it going to look like 100 years from now?
Don't know.
What do you think about genetics, like manipulating genes with technology, or any of it, or even
Yeah,
the Neuralink.
It gets into eugenics a little bit, but there's like a positive and negative version of eugenics. Like if we have the technology to remove diseases, like if we could recognize, a fetus has a certain probability they'll have a certain disease, and we have the ability to interfere with that and cure them of the disease, and that'd be great.
Yeah.
Do that.
Well, how do you define eugenics? Like, what does that mean exactly? Just for people that don't know.
Like using breeding technology either through just these people breed with these people just to make it a pure type of race. That was how it was in the past.
Yeah.
But now
Hitler. Shit.
But with like modern day technology, people with these genes and another person with these genes in the past have caused offspring with these diseases, virtually guaranteed. So if they get together, this will most likely happen. So if you would like to avoid that, don't get together. That's another option people could do, like a dating service.
Yeah.
I worked on a movie
interesting.
about that called The Perfect 46.
Oh, really?
About like a dating service where people could put in their genetic information and see if their partner was compatible with them.
Damn.
And it was all about that, which is
That'd probably be the best way to do it, right?
I mean, that's an easy way to do it. People could do it consensually, and it wouldn't require any government intervention.
Is that happening at all right now?
I think the technology is pretty close.
Damn. I guess if your main goal is like your offspring, that's what you'd want to do, right? How your kids are going to turn out.
Yeah. Then there's Gattaca, like how you can just like a menu of certain traits. If you want blue eyes, if you want,
Wow.
like even with IVF, they can do simple things like that. Having certain eye colors,
Wow.
they can know that right now.
What do you think things might look like 5 years from now?
In terms of that,
Genetics, even artificial intelligence.
I think CRISPR technology is a huge thing that's going to help revolutionize medicine.
What is that
curing
exactly?
diseases. It's a way.
I've heard Joe Rogan talk about it a little bit.
I'm not too sure about it, but I think it's some way of like inserting, like editing DNA. They can even like down to the exact, letter of DNA. They can just change it out and edit it.
God, it's so wild, dude. This is simulation. This has to be.
Maybe.
It's wild when you think about that. Like DNA, like what the fuck is DNA? It's like the code. It's code, right? Yeah, that's really crazy. I forgot who was on Joe Rogan, but someone was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking about genetics. I need to look this up, but they were talking about this stuff. And he was saying something like 5 years from now, it'll be the genetic advancements will be to the point where you can, like even the medical care, like your insurance with medical stuff is going to be a completely new thing because of how we'll be able to analyze our genetics and stuff, that it'll just be a completely different field at that point when you can just give someone your genetic information and they can say, okay, we'll give you whatever insurance because you seem like a safe bet. And then it'll, for other people to be like, we're going to charge you $1 million a year because you have horrible genetics.
Interesting.
It's crazy. He didn't say that. I'm just, that's like my own little explanation of that. But he was talking about that. Well, let me ask you this. We have like 30 minutes left.
Okay.
I'm curious, like, I don't know the best way to ask this question, but Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, what is your, if I were to ask, do you have a side that you would choose if you had to choose a side first?
I think more in general on Sam Harris's side.
Gotcha.
Especially with certain topics.
Yeah.
But, I agree with virtually everything about Sam Harris and like maybe 90% with Jordan Peterson.
Oh, really? You agree with 90% of Jordan Peterson?
I think so.
What's the 10% that you don't agree with?
His stuff about truth, just his ideas about truth, pragmatic truth, and also his some ideas about religion.
So do you think, I'm kind of with you. Like I love Sam Harris, and I just think the whole Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson conversation, like it's so awesome that they're doing that. I think it's like it brought this new awareness to the topics that they're talking about. But I feel like I really resonate with Jordan Peterson on the 10%. Like I feel like I resonate with that a lot. That there is this like truth that isn't scientific. It's like it's more of and this is where you can ask me questions and I'll see. But it's more like, well, science does not answer the ultimate question, which is, what is the ultimate question? It's like, why the fuck do we exist? I guess is the ultimate question. The why, like why is there such a thing as life? And why is there such a thing as reality? Like it's such a abstract, thing. And science definitely doesn't answer that. And I'm not religious, like I'm not Christian or anything, but it seems like all religions have been these stories passed down over, God knows how long, of people trying to understand the nature of reality, but maybe even more so trying to understand how to function as human beings with other humans to like live the best way. And I don't think the Bible is factual. I've said that before. I don't like look at it as a history book or anything, but it seems like there's a lot that you could get out of it, that maybe like what Jordan Peterson says, there is a different kind of truth that comes out of it, which is emotional truth. I don't know how he exactly how he puts it, but like there's just this different kind of, because when you boil really, if we're being really honest, from my perspective, everything boils down to emotions, right? Like facts are awesome, of course. Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings, but all you have is your feelings, really. That's like how you function as a human being, is the emotions that you feel, Seems like there has to be a way to understand that more. And I guess that's where I would say, well, I resonate with Jordan Peterson on that there is like something more fundamental about that,
Yeah, that's why we want to make sure truth is recognized as public, not something that we go off our own feelings because we're so very flawed, and fallible.
But what do you think about like the fact that your feelings are really all you have? Because even if someone tells you the truth and they give you the evidence, you still feel a certain way, or you can still react and your emotions can still completely consume you, Like you don't have control over your emotions, it seems like.
For sure. I think that control is an illusion. We're not thinking creatures that can feel. We're feeling creatures that can think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's just how we evolved. Our neocortex is like on the outer shell of our brain in a little spot. So there's so much more that's unconscious that's going on.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that there is something, do you think it's possible to come to a more, I guess it isn't, but do you think that there's a way to like understand that deeper part of ourselves in a way that we can, I guess that's what religion tries to do, right? It seems like before we had science to understand the nature of reality, we had these stories that we told that were trying to do it. And it seemed like that these stories were way more connected to our emotions, you know?
Yeah, before we had tools to make our cultural knowledge, stick, we just had talking, like language. We didn't have writing for a long time. So if people could tell stories to each other, this is one mechanism for having cultural evolution. So we think in terms of, stories very much so.
Yeah.
Our values are just mostly just stories, pretty much.
Yuval Harari, you like him? You know about him?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? Like, but you don't think that there is like truth in that in like a universal sense? Or there's just no way to know, I guess, you know?
I think they are memes that have been evolved that give adaptive, function.
Yeah.
They're rules of thumb for acting in the world. But it's just a little separate from, objective truth, mapping the territory, that type of thing.
So why have you leaned toward, I mean, this is an assumption I'm making, correct me if I'm wrong, but why have you leaned toward putting more importance on the objective truth of like science than the subjective truth of our emotions? Or have you even put one above the other?
Its ability to predict the future with greater accuracy. We're now able to develop models that can be tested and refined over time. Like we've just super sped up this process of accumulating knowledge and ideas.
Yeah. Well, what if, here's a theory. I'm sure someone has actually has a real theory about this, but what if our emotions are a way better predictor of the future? It's just that we're not in touch with it as much as maybe we were thousands of years ago. Like, listen to your gut. People say that all the time, go with your gut. And there's truth to that. Like people will say there's been studies, I'm sure, I think I've read something about it, that there is a lot of there is a lot of truth with, if you really allow your emotions to guide you, you'll be way better off, And a lot of people get stuck in the trap of, and this happens to me all the time. They get stuck in this trap of allowing their minds to completely just go off on these crazy rabbit holes that lead them toward anxiety and stress. But our emotions are actually telling you how you feel and what to do,
Yeah. There's a great book from Antonio Damasio called Descartes' Error, which is about how thinking and feeling are intrinsically linked. They're not separate things.
I've heard that. Need to read it for sure. I'll put that in the show notes.
So there's this great natural experiment of this person called Elliot who had a tumor in his brain that was removed. And after it was removed, he went back to just his regular life, and he pretty much destroyed his life by not doing things normally. Like in work, he would just not care about work, or he would just do things differently. At home, he would just, watch TV all day, not care about his family, not go to any of his children's games or anything like that. And then he just tried to get, and then he eventually ended up homeless.
Wow.
And then his brother took him in to try to help him, have him checked out by this wide range of doctors. No one could figure out what's wrong with him. He seemed fine. But then he got into Antonio Damasio's hands, and he did different tests, and he checked him for his emotions.
Wow.
And it looks like he had no emotions, pretty much. He was purely rational. So this was the classic assumption is that we use our reason in going through life. That's the thing leading the chariot.
Yeah.
Like that metaphor.
Same here. That's the whole thing.
From Aristotle. But so that's a natural experiment to test that. If that's true, then he should be having a wonderful life. He doesn't have to have emotions in his way. But he ruined his life. And it looks like emotions are very much needed to just function in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Jesus, I need to read that.
Mhm.
Sounds really cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I resonate with Jordan Peterson with that whole, like, there is something to that, you know. And I guess, but I guess I do, like, I guess I think, well, the religions that we have now aren't sufficient enough, you know. They're outdated. It's not sufficient. And you know, who knows what artificial intelligence and technology is going to bring into our reality and of understanding emotions. That could just be a completely, like the Neuralink, Elon Musk Neuralink, you know,
Yeah.
that could just be like, what the fuck is that going to be like? That's like
who knows?
crazy, being able to just instantly access. Like we're going to be superhuman.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. If it's just purely information we're getting, then I don't know. Will we be able to test our ideas faster? Will we be able to come to truth faster so we can make wiser decisions? Or will we just try to confirm our own biases using evidence
Good
that we
question.
just seek out just to confirm our own
God,
biases?
that's a good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. Damn, I haven't thought about it like that. But it makes perfect sense that because having instant access to the internet through some Neuralink isn't giving us more information about our emotions. And if you're like what you're just talking about with that book, it's like we might use it to just confirm our own bias rather than connecting us to some better understanding of the truth. It's like, how do we understand our emotions more? Seems like that's a good question to ask. How the hell can you understand your own emotions?
That takes a lot of training over a long time. I try to meditate as much as I can. I don't do it every day, but I try to. Like, that seems to be the best tool. Like, there's this metaphor from The Righteous Mind of the rider and the elephant, where our conscious mind is just a little rider on top of the elephant, and our intuitions, our emotions are the elephant. And they are most of our cognition. So whichever the way they're going to go, that's just how it's going to be. And the rider rationalizes whatever that is.
Yeah.
So,
Damn.
but we
Deep
can
shit.
train our elephants over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I mean, that's like that's life, right? But that's a really good way to put it. That we are these fucking monkey minds, right? What is your shirt about?
That's
by
why
the
I
way?
like this shirt.
Yeah, I was about
This
to-
shirt comes from a podcast called Cortex. It's like a productivity podcast, but I like the shirt because it reminds me
Yeah.
I do have a divided mind, like a monkey mind, the rider and the elephant.
God, that's a good way to put it. Rider and the elephant. I got to think about that. That's like now I have reason that this is an elephant here.
Yeah, that idea originally comes from the book, the Happiness Hypothesis from Jonathan Haidt.
I've heard, yeah, I haven't read that. I've heard about it.
Finding Modern Truth in Ancient Wisdom, a great book. But I also highly recommend The Righteous Mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Why good people are divided by politics and religion.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think this is kind of a good place to wrap it up.
Cool.
That was a definitely deep fucking last thing to say to wrap this up. It's been about 2 hours, so.
Cool. Well, I love these types of conversations.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. And happy birthday again.
Sure thing.
Thank you so much for coming on, and let's do it again for sure. And I want to come on to your YouTube channel.
Cool. For sure.
Tell me the next time you do it.
I'll let you know next time I'm out.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sweet.